The NFL released some salary cap news for 2025, and how it impacts the Chicago Bears is how we're going to talk about it here on today's show. My name is Harrison Graham. Welcome into Bears Now. The projected cap space initially teams were operating under was like 273, 275. Well, it's even going to be more. Dan Graziano with the scoop saying that the NFL today informed teams for 2025 the salary cap will fall in the range of $277.5 million to $281.5 million, way up from last year's $255.4 million. Cap will have increased by more than $53 million over the last 2 years. In other words, business is booming. You look at the salary cap increases just from the last 5 years. Remember, there was the slight dip in 2021 due to COVID, less fans and seats, all that stuff. But big bounce back in 22 and since then. And I just saw a number yesterday. If you count in streaming, 182 million people watched the Super Bowl. The NFL is in a very, very healthy place. And obviously, if you're the Bears and you already have a good amount of cap space, this is just more good news. Like, this is only a good thing. And teams are operating under the estimation of $275 million. So now you're going to be in that 280 range, and that gives you even more money to work with. According to Over the Cap, they kind of split the difference on their website for their current projections. The Bears are up to just under $70 million in cap space, and that just gives Ryan Poles that much more flexibility, that much more projected cap space at almost that $70 million number in terms of what he can do this offseason, which, look, free agency, this could be a year to be aggressive considering the draft is, especially in the first round, you know, it's not viewed as the high level draft, especially in the top 10, top 15 picks. And when you need offensive linemen, hey, you could be trying to get both Trey Smith and Drew Dalman. Smith expected to get north of $20 million per year. Dalman projected to get north of $10 million per year. And by the way, we say this is good news for the Bears and other teams. It's also good news for impending free agents. They could get even more money than expected on their upcoming contracts, especially a guy like Trey Smith. Like, he hits the open market. If he doesn't get franchise tag, that price could drive up pretty high, 22, 23, maybe even up to $25 million, depending on the teams interested. Now, we also talked about the other day, did a full video on this. Go check it out. You can get even more cap space. So right now, Bears have $69, $70-ish million. You can easily get up to well over $100 million if you want to restructure guys like DJ Moore, Montez Sweat, Jalen Johnson. If you want to cut guys like Gerald Everett, Kevin Byard, who I would keep, Ryan Bates and others. If you want to extend a guy like Kyler Gordon or TJ Edwards, if you want to trade a DeAndre Swift, you can save almost $7 million. The point is Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears, if they want to, and I'm sure they'll still continue to balance the future in mind, more on that in a little bit as well, they can be very aggressive this offseason if they choose to do so. If they want to make multiple big splashes, whether that be in free agency or perhaps a trade, which we've talked about, the Micah Parsons, the Myles Garretts of the world, maybe even a Max Crosby if he becomes available, like, they have the money to do it if they choose to do so. It's just a matter of if they want to do so or not. What say you? If you had to predict it, what is going to be the first big move of the offseason? It doesn't have to be a signing or a trade or whatever. It could be a cut. Maybe they cut somebody. Maybe it's something that we have not yet, seen in terms of reporting, rumors, everything out there. Like the obvious one would be like, oh, they're going to sign Trey Smith. Like, obviously, I would say it's safe to say that they're going to try to do that if he becomes available. If you had to predict first big move this offseason for the Bears is what? And, of course, that comes after Ben Johnson. That was obviously the first big move. Okay, coming up, even more NFL news that helps Chicago and, quite frankly, other NFL teams when it comes to money and the salary cap and all that good stuff. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But first, I do want to remind you guys that we have plenty of FGB shirts in stock. Chatsports.com/FGB. That link is in the comments and description if you want to get yourself an FGB shirt today. I know hundreds of you guys already have one. If you want to get one for your buddy, your sibling, your significant other, whatever the case may be, chatsports.com/FGB. Go ahead and click and shop today. Okay, Brett Kollmann, who's big in the NFL YouTube game and media world and all that stuff, he had some interesting nuggets on Twitter, so I'm just going to kind of go through this real quick. He says the salary cap cap is going to explode again, and it's all because of this change in how Nielsen measures ratings. If you don't know what Nielsen is, it's a digital system that'll help measure ratings and figure out an estimate of how many people watch games, etc. Starting this year, they are leaning into using data directly from smart TV manufacturers to measure viewing habits in addition to traditional at-home panel method. This means NFL ratings in particular from Sunday Ticket on YouTube are going to be more accurately measured, and that number is going to be way bigger than you think because of just how many Gen Z and millennials consume football and streaming services. I am one of those. More accurate ratings mean the league's next broadcast rights negotiations, which can be reopened in 28 and 29 for all these partnerships except for the Disney ABC deal, is going to be way more expensive, which ultimately means massive jumps in salary cap. In other words, the NFL is going to be able to charge Fox, CBS, Netflix, whoever, even more money than they have on their current deal, which means they will make more money for the league, which means teams get more money to spend in free agency. If I'm a GM, Kollmann says, that means next year or maybe even this year, I can sign truly outrageously backloaded deals with a ton of funny money that all slams home in 2030 and not even care about the math. That could factor in now, which is what he's saying. Like, if you're, I'll just use the Bears as an example. Let's say the Trey Smith sweepstakes, or actually let's do this. So some potential Bears benefits in this is to backload big contracts, which is what he's saying. Let's say the Trey Smith sweepstakes or several teams are involved, and that price tag comes home, and maybe it comes down to, hey, we got to give him a fifth year instead of just 4 years. You got to get up to $23, $24, $25 million. I'm not saying you get him literally everything you want, but maybe you're willing to go further and higher than you want to, give him a huge signing bonus up front, backload the cap hits. You could absolutely do that if you want to, where, in the fifth year of that contract, maybe that cap hit is $35 million or something like that. Well, if you cut him, you could save some of it depending on how you structure it. But also, even if you keep him at that number, $35 million cap hit in 2030 might be like what a $20 million cap hit is now. Because if these new TV deals, I don't know the exact figures, let's say they go up 30%, that means the cap by then, it's already, it's 279 right now. That's the projected for this year, 280. Is it going to be 379 in 5 years? I think going up $100 million over 5 years is very much in the realm of possibility. So if a cap hits $35 million, that's less than 10%. So what might look like a huge contract now, by the time you're really paying the piper, it's not even that significant when you get there. It also is the same with trades. Let's say the Bears do want to go get a Micah Parsons. They view him as a cornerstone piece. So not only do you trade to get him, that doesn't really factor in the cap long term, but you're going to have to give him a long-term contract. Say you give him a 6-year deal, right? 6 years at $35 a year. 37 a year. That's going to look crazy right now. Kind of like the Justin Jefferson contract looked crazy last year, by the way, for Minnesota, 35 a year. There's already chatter Jamar Chase could get 40 a year. Well, you get Micah at 35, 36, 37. Yeah, it looks big on the surface, but you backload the cap hits. Even if the cap hit is $55 million in 2030, if the cap is $380 million, that's like a $20 to $25 million cap hit now. So again, it just allows these teams to take even more calculated swings because the cap is already increasing every year. We just showed the graphic earlier, the percentages increases, but the TV deals, that is where the money comes in. And if you get those on your side, if you're the NFL, and again, I don't know what the contract is. Let's say Fox signed a $1 billion deal. Well, it's going to be $1.5 billion this next coming time. In all likelihood, 10-year contract, I would guess. So, it's going to cost a lot of money, and that means more money in these team pockets because these networks are paying the league more. That's how this all works. Simple economics 101. And then last one, of course, Caleb has got to prove he's worthy of getting paid. That's why I put /quarterback. But the Bears have not been in a position to pay a quarterback big money because they haven't had a good enough quarterback since the Jay Cutler deal, which at the time felt like a huge contract. That's a tiny deal now. But let's say they were in position to pay Caleb Williams, let's say after his third year, which would be after next season. He has 2 great seasons in a row. You always want to pay sooner rather than later. Oh, if you give him $65 million per year then, and you might say, Harrison, that's crazy. I'm just saying if he balls out, whatever. This is all hypothetical. if that happens, well, you pay him sooner rather than later. You backload the cap hits. Again, same process as before. Cap's going up, more reasonable. You can always restructure quarterbacks. It only helps the team. So I think GMs, to Kollmann's point, are going to start factoring this in now. You look at a team like the Patriots are a good example. They have stupid amount of cap space. I think Kollmann even tweeted this out. He was like, the Patriots might just give T. Higgins $35 million per year because that's going to feel so insignificant in a few years. You might as well just overpay now to get him because, A, the Patriots need a player like that. It's the same process with Trey Smith in Chicago. Like, if you're willing to go to 22, you might as well go to 24 if that's what it takes, right? Like, you can backload these deals. You can be creative. The TV money's going to come in. The cap keeps going up. If you know what you're doing, and to Poles and the Bears' credit, they've done a good job of staying flexible with the cap. This allows for even more flexibility moving forward. I think the Bears need to start taking big swings. Doesn't mean you get reckless. It just means, hey, for the right player, for the right deal, maybe you're willing to stretch that line of what you're willing to cross a little bit further out. Okay, do you trust Ryan Poles, type T for trust or type D for don't? I think one thing, for the most part, he's done pretty well is these contracts. Now, there's some exceptions. Not paying Roquan and then turning around to pay Tremaine Edmonds, not a great one. But the cap flexibility he's done has been pretty good. Hopefully, he can continue to do that in the future. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Chicago Bears Now. Busy days ahead, busy news day in the NFL. Didn't even get to Jordan Schultz, who reported that Ian Cunningham, in his eyes, is the front runner in Jacksonville. He's interviewing in person today, so if there's fallout from that, we'll have you covered on that as well. Probably hit that on a video tomorrow. My name is Harrison Graham. We'll see you then. Bear down.